Hello everyone, welcome to Pulse, where we educate the youth community of Sri Lanka on uncommon health topics. So our first topic in this 4-part series is sexual health awareness. And here with us we have Dr. Nihal Weerasooriya, an expert personality in this field and is the Provincial Director of Health Services in the Central Province. So now talking about sexual health awareness. So let's start by laying the base. So reproductive system is the main organ which is related to sexual health. So why don't we start by discussing what reproductive system is?
Well, your human body consists of several systems. I know you are familiar with the cardiovascular system, the skeletal system, the muscular system. So likewise, the reproductive system is the tissues, glands and organs involved in producing offsprings or children. So, the important thing here, we would have seen male and female two components. Right? So, in the screen you can see the female reproductive system, what are the organs and the tubes and the glands involved. So you can see there in woman, the reproductive system includes the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, the uterus, the cervix and the vagina. So meanwhile, the male reproductive is different, the organs are different. So you can see in male, for a man, it includes the prostate, the testis and the penis. So these are the main organs and glands in reproductive system in a male and a female.
So doctor, now moving on to sexual health. So as we already have a knowledge on now what the reproductive system is, so what's the importance of sexual health, and especially within our country and in rural communities, it's a very highly rising situation. So why don't you explain what's sexual health and what's the importance of it?
Sure. Reproductive health refers to the condition of male and female reproductive system during all life stages. These systems are made of organs and hormone-producing glands, including the pituitary gland in the brain. As I told you earlier, ovaries in female and testicles in male are reproductive organs. They also function as glands because they produce and release hormones. So reproductive health, as the World Health Organization says, it's a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely the absence of diseases or infirmity. So when we talk about the physical health, mental health and the social well-being, even in relation to the reproductive system, keeping the good health is the reproductive health. Why this is important? When we talk about the reproductive system, basically the most important factor is reproduction. Without reproduction, yourself or me not persist, right? So, as you earlier mentioned, some topics are hidden and very seriously not taken up by people. But this is very important. Everyone should know what is reproduction and what's happening in your body. What are the organs involved and their process and their function. Then only you can keep the good reproductive health. So that is the one important. Everybody should understand what is reproductive system and the functions of it. Then the other most important thing is, now as this is involved in reproduction, if you really do not need any time reproduction, if something happened, example unwanted pregnancy, so then it's a problem. And engaging in this sexual activity, you might get a disease, then another problem. So therefore, to keep reproductive health perfect is very important, and we should not forget it. Very important here. Not only the reproduction and the disease component, out of all these, the emotional and mental component which involved in this is very, very important. Especially when talk about the youth, the teenagers, they should know the subject very well. They should know what is reproductive system and reproductive health. Then how to balance the emotions, which is very closely go with this system. So therefore, I think it's a high good time to everybody to understand what is the reproductive system and how it functions.
So, Doctor, as you mentioned, these topics are hidden from some communities, and especially the mental status. If someone's engaged in such activities by force, it could affect their mental health for a long period of time, as well as these sexual transmitted diseases, the symptoms and everything. It's very hard to find, and as the youth community, we might not have the knowledge to identify them. So, Doctor, why don't you talk about how to, like, the after effects, if someone faces these situations, how to face after that?
Well, first of all, we will see what is this sexually transmitted disease. You know, diseases in human can caused by different organisms. You have heard about viral infections, you have heard about bacterial infection, you have heard about fungal infection, and even some protozoa, they do infect people. So when it comes to the reproductive system, and as a result of activity of some sexual activity, if you get a disease and if it transmits to one person to another, then it is called sexually transmitted disease. This is a communicable disease because it can go from one person to the other. So while doing or engaging sexual activities, if you get a disease, that is so-called sexual transmitted disease. And commonly in Sri Lanka, we can see around 10, 12 leading sexual transmitted disease. So you can see in the screen, genital herpes is a viral infection which is very common, and human papillomavirus infection which is very common, and even hepatitis B, a blood-borne infection which can transmit from sexually, and some bacterial infections like gonorrhea and syphilis, and also some protozoal infections like chlamydia and some other few diseases are there. So very importantly, we can't forget about the most dangerous viral infection, which is so-called HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, which can transmit through sexual activity. So which ultimately result to the stage AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So it has become a syndrome, and you know the danger is still we are struggling with how we can get cure from HIV. So first thing you should understand, you must understand, there are some diseases which transmit while engaging in sexual activity. So what are the symptoms, as you asked? Basically, the bacterial infections like gonorrhea and chlamydia, you get burning micturition. While you are urinating, you get a burning sensation. Sometimes you can get fever. Sometimes you can get swelling of your lymph nodes, right? And uneasiness. So there are so many symptoms. Each and every disease get different symptoms and signs. So you can see in the screen now, if you talk about the genital warts, it's the appearance. You can see you don't have to have sex to get an STD, but skin to skin contact is also enough. So that is the most important thing. In some viral infections, sometimes, especially like genital warts, the skin contact is enough to get that warts to you. The signs are the pink of flesh-colored warts that are raised, flat or sword, like often there are no symptoms, but you can see that. You can see the screen, the appearance of a genital wart. And then about gonorrhea, which is a very common bacterial infection. Where you get common symptoms are burning during urination and discharges, but often there are no early symptoms. Later, the infection may cause skin rashes or spread to the joints and blood. So that is gonorrhea. So likewise, the different disease conditions give you different symptoms and signs. But when you have any doubt in relation to your sexual organs, it's better to go for a consultation and get the needed investigations and see, rather than not without telling anybody that you have this problem. Because these are really very emotional and very secret sometimes. So I think you should not be afraid to go and talk to a person who knows the subject, or to your teacher, or to a doctor, and explain what's happening. And then you can get your investigations and you can relieve. I think that is really important, rather in the early stage, rather than becoming very chronic.
So I think, Doctor, coming up to the point we discussed, I think we covered almost all the basics. So as Doctor told, this is not something to be hidden. There's always specialists around the country. So, Doctor, do you have anything more to educate all our youth? Anything left to tell the youth?
Yes, very importantly, how to maintain or how to prevent this type of unnecessary burden, especially in relation to reproduction as well as in relation to the sexual transmitted diseases. So, first thing is, actually, if you can avoid unnecessary sexual behaviors, that is the best option. But practically, I don't know, right? So, then you have to think of one partner. That is very important. And talking to your partner about your sexual relationships is very important. And as well as there is another vast subject, or so-called contraception. You should know about what is contraception and how it helps to prevent transmission of these diseases. So that is another time that we have to discuss that. And under that, it comes the usage of condoms and dental dams. Because especially when we talk about HIV infection, we can't forget condoms, right? And being aware of how alcohol and drugs can lower inhibition and affect decision making. So therefore, using alcohol, tobacco, or any other dangerous drugs is another problem. So you must avoid those things where these consumption of alcohol and other dangerous drugs can cause different decision makings in your day-to-day activities. Then, as we lastly discussed, getting tested for sexually transmitted infections if you think you may have put yourself at a risk. So best thing is should not put you in a risk. So I think basically those are the most important factors that you have to think in prevention of this. And I have to tell this is a very brief introduction and a very brief discussion about a vast subject, which is very important.
So I think the main part on how to prevent this was clearly understood. So with that, we come to the end of our topic today, and we would like to thank Dr. Nihal for dedicating his time and coming here and sharing these thoughts and the knowledge which would help a vast community, not only in Sri Lanka, but in the world. So Doctor, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, with that we conclude the first episode of Pulse. See you with another one.